So here we are on a beautiful Sunday with everybody who's here today. And hopefully, those of you who are listening in will enjoy today's session. We don't know what's going to happen. We never do. We never know who's going to show up. And so we'll see if anyone in the group has a question or knows where they want to go. And I know that I haven't shown you in a long time, but when I'm looking down, it's because I use a raggy letterboard and a pendulum, cheap dime store pendulum, plastic, in order to, because they can move it. And so it aids the telepathy because they can spell words out and help me to figure things out. And I don't have to focus very much. I can just listen and sort of like a teletype. Okay. So who has a question or thought? Steve, I know
Um,
you got something on your mind. He wants to finish saying what he
oh,
has
go
to
ahead.
say.
Go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead, Steve. Thank you for the audience because I, for the life of me, cannot figure it out. I cannot figure out humanity. I was okay when I was in my own little world, you see, because it was so simple to me. I just got up in the morning and I said, what a wonderful day. And then I'd lay on the beach or I'd do what I do. And it was always beautiful. It was always beautiful. And then I say something and Steph goes berserk and she says, why did you say that, Steve? And I don't even know what I said. I don't even know what I said. Do any of the others of you feel like that? Where you say something and somebody goes berserk and you don't even know why you ticked them off?
It's happened to me once or twice.
Happens to me a lot. People are like, why are you so mad? Why are you so angry? And I'm like, I didn't know I was. But thanks for letting me know. I was just speaking my mind.
You know what? Can I ask you a question, Steve, if you're done with that thought?
Well, go ahead. I'll probably segue back into his thought, but
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. Well, so this is for Steve. Was the life experience of a Nibiruin different from a human experience? I mean, we have a lot of Nibiru DNA in here, but is was the experience much different, like day to
On Nibiru,
day? Yeah, on Nibiru.
yes, very different. And that is probably why I'm so screwed up because I remember it so well. And it's kind of like you remember your childhood. You ever think about a childhood in an idyllic location and you think,
Yes.
wow, it was so nice then. And then you never can replicate it. It's like that first Christmas tree. It's so amazing to you. And then after, by the time you're an adult, it's, oh God, I got to get out the Christmas tree again and find some lights for it, etc. And so it loses its glory. It loses its glory after a while. And that's what happened to me. I lost my glory, I guess. So I thank you, Vic, because I think you're helping me pinpoint the problem. Is I remember very well what it was like on Nibiru. And on Nibiru, we were not violent, you see, because we didn't believe in good and evil. We trusted on science and we trusted on the world around us, but we didn't have a bunch of religious bullshit that we had to listen to. We didn't have to bow to any graven images, you might say. We just lived every day in peace and harmony with each other. So we really did. We lived in peace and harmony. However, in spite of the fact that we loved our worlds and we lived in peace and harmony, we did not understand how we were destroying the world God had given us. And we didn't all share the same point of view. Doesn't mean that we didn't love each other. And it didn't mean that we battled over it. It just meant that some people became so enamored with the technology of the era that they began to lose their trust on the natural world, you see. And little by little, we lost the vitality of our world. I had many, many, many lives on Nibiru, as did you. And we were happy people, but we didn't know how happy we were until we lost it, you see. Does this make sense to you? You don't know what you have until you have to do without it.
Yes, I think if Nibiru really is that idyllic of a place, it's got to be frustrating for us not to play in that same way here.
It is. And whether or not you would consider it idyllic because you're used to a different world is questionable. Just like if you look back at your childhood and you think how wonderful it was, many other people might not think the same location or the same social milieu was all that great, right? But to you, it was wonderful. That scraggly Christmas tree, that first Christmas tree that was so scraggly with the few big old lights on it and some tinsel fascinated you. And today you would say, well, who would put up a tree like that in their house? Yuck. Because you have all these tiny lights and all these little bulbs and this and that and the other that you didn't have back when you were a child. And so you began to say, well, maybe it wasn't at all as great as I thought it was. But what was great about it was that you were innocent. You didn't know any different. And you just enjoyed every day until you said, wait a minute. Even on Nibiru, things pass away. Even on Nibiru, things change. And we didn't adapt to the change, you see. We did not adapt to the change. We, that is to say, those of us like me and Stephanie, lived in a community that began to live in a different way than others on Nibiru. We began to live in a way that was very close to the natural world because we began to eschew technology. And we began to say, maybe technology is the problem. Maybe technology is the problem because it is taking people away from their roots, you see. And the people who trusted on the science and the technology said, well, we're the ones that are smarter, so we know how to handle things. So arrogance came to Nibiru. Arrogance and ignorance, the two twin problems of the earth today, came to Nibiru. But I remember the good days. I remember the good days. Looks like when you look back at your childhood, you may remember the good days and you forget about the bad days. And then when Nibiru was destroyed, we had to go away and try to find a way to reincarnate. But what do you do? What do you do when you have destroyed your planet and your soul craves the human experience? Because remember, it's you, God, and reality. And when you're in heaven, your reality is very, very thin. It's like saying you have a very, very, very thin blanket on you. And when you come to Earth, you get the depth. You get the depth. When you come into the physical reality, you get the depth that feed your soul. And so we had to reincarnate on some planets that were not particularly pleasant, you see, because we were already a very, very highly intelligent race. And therefore, we had a lot of trust on our intelligence and our dexterity so that we could be very creative. And we were creative people. And so it was very, very, very hard. And this was how we redeemed our energy, you see. unbalance. We had to come to see, those of us who became known as the Elohim, but there were many others from Nibiru who took other trajectories than my group. However, in our trajectory, which is the only one I really know about, we came to see that love was a reality. And that love meant openness. It meant being open. It meant allowing somebody to say something because they're angry or they're sad. And you said, thanks for sharing that. Do you want to hear what I have to say? And they would say yes or no, or they might say, I just need to go off by myself and cry. And that's okay. That's okay. Because as long as you're open about what you want to do, then that is love. Because the love can flow, the energy can go wherever it needs to go. Because remember, this is all about energy, and the energy needs to flow. You can't stop it up. You can't stick it in a hole and say, stay there. It has to flow. And so when we landed on Mars, eventually, we were ecstatic because that's the best planet we had ever been on, even though it was very, very hard. Comparable to some of the worst places on Earth, but it still allowed us to have physical forms that were intelligent and flexible. And then Mars went away because we didn't learn our lesson. We were still arrogant and ignorant, you see, because we were technologically astute and we thought maybe we could rely on our technology to help us overcome the handicaps on Mars. And of course, we destroyed our own planet. And so you might ask us, is this just the natural trajectory of the soul? Is it just natural that we will inhabit various planets and then we will destroy them? And that's what we're doing on Earth. And of course, it's what happened on Atlantis. Is this what we do? We just build a society and then we let it fall into decay. Is this the natural process of the soul in its trajectory through time and space, you might say? I don't know the answer to that. I don't
So
know the answer to that.
oh, keep going.
Go ahead.
So isn't that essentially what we're doing with human bodies, with bodies? We're coming into them, we're taking them, we're using them, and then we're throwing them away, essentially.
You mean as a species in the way that we develop?
As souls, yes.
Throw them away? What do you mean throw them away?
Well, I mean, they die and then we're no longer inside of them.
Right, but we don't throw them away.
Hmm.
We revere them and we say, thank you for having served me so well. Now go back to energy so that you can be redistributed into another body to serve the next person. We don't throw them away. They are recycled, you see.
Okay, nice.
Hey there. Hi. Mhm.
Children.
One of our
Children are
favorite little
wonderful.
participants.
Oh, yeah.
So does that answer your question, Vic?
Yes. Yes, it does. I hope it helps you as well.
I don't know because I'm happy when I'm with Stephanie, and then when she closed the door in my face, I get sad, and I'm still trying to figure it out why she keeps closing the door in my face. But I guess it's something I say, and so I have to figure it out before sunset because at sunset I'll have to play another part because the day will be over, you see, and there will be another day that comes. And every day we have the opportunity to choose. Every day we have the opportunity to choose who we are and what we will be and what options we will take. Will we greet that person and say hi and spend a half hour chatting with them? Or will we turn away? And if that person who says hi has a tendency to disturb our peace and harmony because they're always gossiping or saying something about someone that we don't like to hear, do we just endure it? Or do we walk away? Or do we tell them a lie and say, I can't talk to you today because I have a toothache or whatever it is that we use for our excuse? The dog ate my homework, whatever. Is it the way to play? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, Steve, you're gonna be incarnated shortly, fully. You're gonna have a little body just like this one. So just just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride.
Actually, that's not going to happen.
Oh no.
Did you ever want something so badly that you imagined it and you willed it to happen and then it didn't happen?
Maybe.
I remember when I had cancer and I willed it away and it didn't work. I had to come to the day when I said, hey, willpower isn't going to do it, buddy. Willpower is not going to save the day. Any of you ever had that experience? When you thought you were so powerful that all you had to do was think about something and speak it and it would happen?
Yes.
Some people think of it as the law of attraction or manifestation or whatever. That you're so powerful that you can create the world you want and the life you want just by thinking about it, right? Anybody ever heard that idea? And how's it going?
I still haven't won the lottery yet, if the answer is that, yes.
Well, it's worked for me several times, so it works.
Does it work for you all the time?
I'm still trying to figure out what is the catch, because if it works one time, why doesn't it work all the time?
That's right. Why don't you have that tooth, Winnie?
I'm working on it.
And I was working on curing myself from cancer.
Okay, Steve.
So what's
thank
the
you.
difference? The truth is that everything you ever think will happen because that's an option you choose. Everything you think will happen, but you have to let it go. You have to let it go before it can come back to you.
Yeah.
And therefore, as long as you're holding on to it, you can't have it. That's the irony of it. As long as you're holding on to it with both hands, you can't have it. But when you let it go, ever notice that? When you let go of something that you thought you wanted, and then all of a sudden it's there? Anybody ever had that experience?
Yeah.
And you ever had the experience of saying, well, this is interesting, but I remember when I was 5 years old, I imagined this. Ever had that experience?
Yeah.
How about you, Vic? You ever had the experience of imagining that the day of Armageddon was coming?
Yes.
And so it goes because we are co-creators with God, you see.
Mm.
We are co-creators with God, but we have to let go and let God. And that's what happens. You have to let go of your creations in your imagination to let God do his part. You got to mix up the eggs and the flour and the sugar to get the cookie, right? And you can't hold on to those eggs and say, eggs, I want you to turn into a cookie. Did anyone see the post that Steph made about the guy who was using the microwave and he pushed pizza and his potato just came out a potato? And he's like, what happened? It was supposed to be a pizza. I pushed pizza. This is the way people play. They just put their shit in the microwave and they say, God, I pushed pizza. I didn't get a pizza. I pushed a new tooth and I didn't get a new tooth. What's going on here? I pushed the lottery ticket that would win and I didn't get it. So I guess you know that God's not a microwave. So anyway, I'm still thinking about it. And I guess it's worth me talking about it because there's probably out there some people who are listening to this or who will listen to this who have the same problem I do. But they can't quite figure it out why they can't put the potato in the microwave and push pizza and they don't get a pizza back. You know, it's like saying that if we seed the clouds, that's like putting the potato in the microwave and saying, God, now we want to stop global warming. So we're pressing stop global warming. So God, it's in the microwave. We push the button.
Too bad it doesn't work
Therefore,
that way.
I'm going to sit down and shut up because I haven't figured it out. And hopefully there'll be people out there who haven't figured it out like me, and they'll say, Steve, I'm on your side. Next time Steph tells you to get lost, tell her to talk to me because we're in the same boat, you see. We're in the same boat because I can't figure it out either. All right. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out the length of the buffer period between giving and receiving. I know God gives us only what we give him. So
Explain in more detail. This is Thomas. Explain in more detail, Winnie, so that I can get the picture. Give me an example.
okay. I have well, example is I met my older brother. Well, he's away from where I am. And so I hadn't seen him for a long time. And when I saw him, he's 75 years old. And I mean, it's been like at least 10 years since I saw him. And when I saw him, I said, oh, big bro, you have aged. He said, well, I'm 75. And 1 month later, his oldest child saw me and she says, Auntie, you have aged. And of course, I remembered.
Thomas says, well, sometimes there's going to be a very rapid turnaround time, like Paige saying, I wish I had a recipe for the grape salad. Before the day's out, she has a recipe for the grape salad, right? So sometimes it's going to be a very fast turnaround time. And I know Steph learned a trick for it. When she would meditate and clear her mind, and she would think of it like clearing the field, and she would plant a seed. And she would say, she has many dramatic experiences with this. This is what I need. And she would imagine it. And then she would let it go, and let God. And she would finish her meditation and go about her business. And within a few minutes, she would get what she wanted in the most dramatic of ways. There's several stories about that because in her thinking, she had cleared the field so that there weren't a lot of other thoughts there that would compete with the one that she planted, you see. And then she let it go. And she said, well, I don't really care anymore if I get it or not, because I'm turning it over to God. And I think she's told you the story about, for example, how she lost her camera. She went through this process upstairs in her bedroom. She walked down the stairs, stepped on a chair mat that cracked. She had lost her camera like months before and hadn't been able to find it. So she finally took the time to meditate and go through the process. She stepped on a chair mat like 2 minutes after she had got up from her meditation. And the chair mat cracked. And she decided to move the heavy bench that was on one end of it and turn the chair mat that was there to protect the carpet the other way to hide the crack. And when she moved the bench, the camera fell out. It had fallen behind the bench where it couldn't be found. And she has several stories like that, although I don't think you do that much anymore, do you, Steph? No, I don't. I don't worry about it anymore. But she has many dramatic experiences like that. Now, how did the chair mat crack at that particular point? Well, when you give it to God, God finds a way, right? God knew where the camera was.
Is there
Another
a
one of
way?
her stories is when her children were small and her little daughter was only about 2 or less, she lost the keys to her car and she could not find them. And she had to get up in the morning and get the kids to school and daycare and get to work by a certain time. She thought, oh God, I'm going to have to pay for a cab, go all over town doing these things. And just to relax, she meditated before she went to bed after having looked for the keys unsuccessfully. And she went through the process and she got up and she said, well, I'm not tired anymore because I am relaxed from meditating. It helped me calm down. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go in my daughter's bedroom and open her closet door where her toys are, and I'm going to sort them out. How stupid is that? How stupid is that? So she went into her daughter's bedroom and she opened the closet where the toys were on a jumble on the floor, and she was going to sort them out and put them on the shelves, you see, even though they would be in a jumble the next day. And she picked up a little toy, the kind that had holes in it of different shapes where you put things through, locks, and she heard a jingle. First toy she picked up. And she looked inside it, and there were her keys. Now, how do you explain this other than God has a hand, right? But you have to give it to God. You can't demand. You can't say, I'm push the pizza button, and now I want a pizza. You just have to say, this is the way we play, God. You know everything I think. However, when my mind is just a jumble of thoughts, how are you supposed to know what you're supposed to do? So if you want to try that experiment, you can. You have to clear your mind of any thoughts, you see. So she would meditate for about 45 minutes or so in a formal meditation position. And then she would imagine the lost item and as much detail as she could. And then she would let it go. She'd finish a meditation for 5 minutes or so, get up and forget about it. You understand this process? She even demonstrated it for her family one day when one of the sisters had lost the baby blanket for one of her children. Steph went through the process, and then she got up and she walked into one of the bedrooms at her mother's house where they were gathered. She looked under the bed, and there was the blanket, right to that bed, because God was guiding her. You see, let God guide you. Clear your mind of all the crap in it, and God will take the time to help you find that lost object, you see.
What would have been the best way for me to clear my mind so it didn't come back to smack me on the face?
Maybe, Winnie, you can imagine that lost tooth. And maybe you'll find it.
Would it
Maybe,
have been to apologize to my brother, or maybe within myself, like telling him, I mean, nobody wants to be told that they are aging. They might accept their age,
are you
but not.
sure nobody wants to be told that they are aging? Some people might want to be told it. How do you know? You might tell somebody they're aging and they say, oh, thank you. Now I'm even because I told my mother she was aging. So my energy is redeemed. I'm back to neutral.
Well,
Are
I
you
didn't
back
feel
to neutral?
comfortable.
Are you
I
back
didn't
to
feel
neutral?
I didn't feel good after I said it. I knew I should not have said it.
But are you back to neutral when somebody told you that you're aging?
When she told me that I have aged, it didn't feel good because I immediately remembered that this is payback for what I told her father, even though she wasn't there.
Okay. So if she hadn't told you that, you wouldn't have gotten the payback. So now you got the payback. So now you're even, and you're not likely to go tell anybody else they're aged if you don't like hearing it from somebody else, right? So when you hear somebody say something to you like, hey, you're aged or whatever, you can say, thank you. Now I'm even,
Yeah.
right? Now I know what it feels like for me, not necessarily what it feels like for him, because maybe he didn't care. But you cared because you felt guilty about it after you told him. And then you had to be told in order to redeem your energy on the guilt you feel. It's the guilt, the shame. If you just said, wow, you've aged, and you just said, God, I don't know why I said that, but I assume that you put the words in my mouth, then you won't feel any guilt about it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it was exactly what he needed to hear, and now you don't have any karmic retribution because you didn't shame yourself. Does this make sense?
Yeah,
And
thank
if
you.
somebody says to you, you were aged, you won't feel any shame or guilt. You'll say, well, yes, it's true. I have aged. Yesterday I was a day younger, and today I'm a day older. You can listen to the words and not get caught up in your guilt and shame. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Listen to the words that people say to you. Take the time to listen to them. Right? Oftentimes, people will say things in an attempt to shame you and blame you. But if you really listen to the words and you really think about it, you'll realize that it's just a joke. There's nothing there to be ashamed of. They're the ones that are trying to be the golden idol and say something that will put you down and make them feel better, right? But you have to take a few minutes to think about it because chances are you have been trained to react. If someone says, boy, you've aged, you've been trained to react to it. Instead of just say, well, thanks. I'm glad you noticed. I'm older today than I was yesterday, and a little wiser. All right. So we're at 1:30. We started a little bit late, but any other thoughts or things that anybody wants to bring up? I want to keep you guys when you're so tired. You get tired sitting there.
So if I had said that to my brother and didn't feel any emotional attachment, any negative emotional attachment, I would not have had the repercussion from his daughter.
When you said it to your brother, you didn't
Yeah.
have any, I thought you said that you felt bad after saying it to him.
I did, but I'm asking if I didn't,
Oh, if you didn't.
yeah, would she have said anything to me or said something to me?
Yes, she could have still said something to you, but you wouldn't bother. You would just say that's exactly what she needed to say, what God wanted her to say. Now, why did God want her to say that? Well, because God wants me to know that I have aged. He wanted to remind me that I'm a day older today than I was yesterday. And if I had a good day yesterday and I had a good day today, what does it matter? You don't have to buy into a particular interpretation of your reality. You're free to see it clearly. Be very literal. Be very literal in the way that people speak to you and you speak to them. Just speak to them in a way that would say, this is the truth for me today. This is the truth for me today, that you have aged. And for a child or a younger person to say you have aged tells you something, doesn't it? What does it tell you? Tells you they remember you at a different day. They remember you and they may have fond memories of you. And they say, are you still the same person you were when I knew you before? Are you still my big brother? Because you don't look the same. Have you changed your point of view? Do you remember me? Do you love me? And they aren't saying it because they want to denigrate you. They're saying it because they're surprised to see that you don't look the same as their memory of you, right? And that's all. But if you feel that you're not quite up to par because you're aged from what you were yesterday or last year or 3 years before, then the guilt will begin to cause you to lose your good vibration on miracles. Because miracles happen every day. And to that child who says to you, "My, you look old, look at these wrinkles," it's a miracle to them. It's a miracle to look at you and see that you don't have to be the same, that you have changed. Well, they weren't looking. And therefore, it is a lesson for them in the power of God energy, that it keeps moving the energy. Now, this is an important subject because I want each of you to think about what we talked about before about the aging process and the lifespan. I want you to take this to heart. And I want you to say, hey, I'm older today than I was yesterday in the earthly way, but my soul is still the same age and it will never change. My soul is eternal, you see. My soul is eternal and it will never be any older or any younger. And therefore, there's no reason that I can't be the same age as my soul, you see. because I am my soul and I am eternal. And therefore, think about it, people. If people can walk on hot coals, or God can be so kind to Steph that he says, I'm going to cause your chair mat to crack, so you can find your camera, then trust that God can be kind to you. And you don't go crying and whining and say, oh, God dang it, my chair mat broke today, cracked, and now I have to go get another one. Oh, how terrible. You just say, well, my chair mat cracked today. I think I'll adapt to it. I think I'll adapt to my reality and I'll turn it around and stick the crack part under this bench, you see? So be adaptable, be flexible, and don't blame God if you open the microwave door and you didn't get a pizza. Just say, thank you, God, because I like potatoes. And I'm going to eat this potato today. And because you didn't give me a pizza, maybe I'll put some cheese on it and some pepperoni on it and eat it that way. Be flexible, people. And so when you begin to let go of your shame and blame that you have to occupy a body that is changing, it is evolving, and you want to hold on to the past. You want to hold on to the graven image that you see on TV and in the movies about how you have to look in order to be loved. You got to look like you're a movie star in their prime in order to be loved, right? Let it go, let it go. And just turn to God and say, I really don't care. I just want to look in a way where people won't care. I just want to look in a way where people will say, hi, I recognize you. I know who you are, and I love you. Just say to God, God, I want to be part of this group, you see, and I want to play my part. So will you help me? Will you help me to do what I need to do? Will you give me the muscle that I need? Will you give me the brain cells that I need? Will you give me what I need? And if you can follow the process that Steph outlined to you and meditate, and then picture what it is you want God to do and let it go. Let it go so God can give it back to you. Just say, it's okay, God. I just wanted to show you what I think I need. But now I'm done showing you what I think I need. I'm going to adapt, you see. I'm just going to get up from my meditation position and I'm going to go make supper or something. And God will guide your footsteps. And he will guide your hands, you see. And he would say, thank you for putting your trust in me. Thank you for putting your trust in the flour, if you're an egg. Trust on me to be a part of you that wants to work with you. But if you overload me with your grumbles and your complaints and say, I didn't find my keys today, God. So now what am I going to do? I got to stay up all night and cry. And I'll have to whine and cry to my boss and say, da 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 da. Just say, if I don't have my keys today, I guess I'll have to dig deep into my wallet and pay for the cab or whatever. But I will just trust on having a wonderful day. And if climate change takes my world away, I will just say, well, God, I already asked you for something. I already asked you for something. And if this is your way of giving it to me, then I'm not going to whine and cry. I'm just going to say thank you for this because I'm having a wonderful day. Maybe it's very, very hot, but thank you for reminding me that there are days when I wanted to turn up the heat, you see, because I was feeling a little bit cold in my heart. And I just wanted more heat so I could repeat the lines I learned in church to say, hey, this is the way we got to play. But it felt so cold to me anymore that I could hardly say it anymore. And so I asked you to turn up the heat in my heart, God, so that I could be happy again. And I could appreciate you and see you in everything I did. And God said, okay, I hear you, dear. And if I give it to you, it will be in the way that I see clear to give it to you. And so just adapt. Be flexible, you see, and listen to me. And if you're so inflexible that you have to sit in that pew and say the same prayers over and over again when you don't really trust on them, you see, because you say, God has abandoned me, God has abandoned me, then you won't be the one that lets go. So God can make it grow. You won't be the one who says, I trust on you so much that I don't even have to think about it again. I don't have to worry about it, because if I think about it and I have to keep saying, oh my God, I have to keep telling you, God, over and over and over again what I need, I have to be obsessive about it, then you can't let go of it. Let go of your fear. Let go of your worry that God does not have it in hand. God has it in hand, and He just wants you to hand over the trust on Him to fulfill your wishes, you see. He just wants you to be honest. But if you lie and you say to that person, well, I can't talk to you today because I have a toothache, then God will give you a toothache. Because He is very literal, you see. God is very literal. So when people say to you something that they think they're insulting you, just listen to the words, because it might be God talking to you through them. And you're missing the message because you're reacting before you stop and think. And so if God says to you, boy, you've aged, you can say, well, God, I paged through the book of love. And now I have expended my rage at you. And it took me to reach the age of innocence, you see. I have reached the age of innocence because I aged, you see. I aged out of the age of despair. I aged out of the age of trying to be the golden idol. I aged out of the age of trying to be the God of the universe. I have aged into innocence because you judged me and you found me innocent, you see. You said to me, you never sinned, my dear. You never sinned. The only thing I ever asked of you is that you be my friend and that you turn around to the light and not fight me, because you don't really trust me. If you have to keep arguing with me and saying, God, I want you to cure this cancer, I have to cure this cancer by pure willpower. I have to keep thinking about it. I have to keep resisting it. Then you can't let it go. And the cancer will grow. And the cancer, you know, is endemic in society today because they can't let it go. They can't let it go and listen to what people say and say, you're right, I've aged. I've aged into the arms of God. I've turned the page. I no longer trust on shame and guilt, you see. I no longer trust that God cursed me with original sin. I no longer trust on hell, and I no longer trust that he would ever throw me there. I'm willing to give him my requests and turn around and give my best back to the world, you see. Make sense to you? Thank you for being here today. And I hope that you will all stay in the vibration of love and that you will all sing together when you say, we trust on each other today. We trust on each other to play their own part. And they don't have to play my part. And I won't play theirs. Because the music that's in front of us has many parts, you see, so that we can all play in this symphony. Thank you for being here.
Can I say one thing yet?
Huh?
Can I say one thing?
Yes, definitely.
Oh, I have a question. I'm not sure if anybody from the other side's still there, but I'll just put
Oh, they're
this
still
out
there.
here. I'll just put this out here because I don't know what to do about something. Tomorrow is the birthday of someone that I care about a lot. And I've been trying to figure out if there's something what do we do about the birthday that's coming tomorrow? We've been speaking of aging, and I don't want this person to feel old just because I say, happy birthday, Stephanie.
Oh, my birthday tomorrow. Cute. You didn't come at it the way they do on the other side where I'm like, and oh.
Happy birthday, Stephanie.
Happy birthday, Stephanie.
I feel very aged. Thank you.
Yeah,
I feel
here's
very
don't
to
aged,
feel
but
age.
I have gone through the pages of all those other things.
you got another 80 years to go.
I'll be 74 years old tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
154 sounds nice.
Yeah, it does. I haven't, so if I live to be 150, I'm not even halfway there yet.
Ooh.
And I want to say that, what do I want to say? I was going to say something, but I didn't know. Oh, I have a tendency to forget birthdays, including my own. And I forget everybody's. I forget all those special days. I'm like, I wake up and I go, is it Christmas today? Steve says, the age of innocence has come. And so let's all make merry and say that today is the day that we give up our trust on sin. And we give up our trust on being decrepit. And we give up our trust on being senile. And we give up our trust on the people who say, hey, old man or old woman, your day is done. And we say, well, son or young woman, we think that we are done with sin, you see. We're done with that old time religion because we have begun again. We have begun again in the age of innocence to trust on God, to help us remember that we're here to help you, to find us when you're ready, when you've aged enough to understand that God's been waiting for you to turn around and face the light. Right? Thank you for the birthday wishes. So, like I say, I'm only halfway there, so that says the same for you, right?
Yep.
All right. And goodbye to everybody out there. And may you live to be 150 in perfect health, complete whatever it is you need to do on this earth, and say, I've had a good day. I've had a really good day, God, and I'm ready to go to heaven and get a rest
Yep.
because I've given it my best.
Mhm.
Right? Thank
Yep.
you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
All righty.